Well, it's time to listen to this bigly speech from our commander-in-chief on Independence Day. I've sped it up to double speed so I could save you the time and the brain power of having to listen to this guy ramble on for twice as long, and I'm going to skip through all the boring, meaningless parts that he goes through as well. Enjoy.
Let us also send our deepest thanks to our wonderful veterans, law enforcement, first responders, and the doctors, nurses, and scientists working tirelessly to kill the virus. They're working hard. I want to thank them very, very much.
How exactly are the veterans and the first responders killing the virus? Are they doing it by injecting bleach like you told them to?
We're grateful as well to your state's congressional delegation, Senator John Thune. John, thank you very much. Senator Mike Rounds. Thank you, Mike.
Oh, thank you so much for those senators for helping me to escape my impeachment trial unscathed. They didn't even care about evidence. A trial without evidence. Wonderful.
And Dusty Johnson, Congressman. Hi, Dusty. Thank you. And all others with us tonight from Congress. Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate it. There could be no better place to celebrate America's independence than beneath this magnificent, incredible, majestic mountain monument to the greatest Americans who have ever lived.
Hate to break it to you, but Franklin D. Roosevelt is the greatest American to ever have lived. Sorry.
Today we pay tribute to the exceptional lives and extraordinary legacies of George Washington, Thomas Jefferson, Abraham Lincoln, and Teddy Roosevelt. I am here as your president to proclaim before the country and before the world, this monument will never be desecrated. These heroes will never be defaced. Their legacy will never, ever be destroyed. Their achievements will never be forgotten. And Mount Rushmore will stand forever as an eternal tribute to our forefathers and to our freedom.
At least until global warming or some other natural disaster wipes it out, along with all of us, too.
We gather tonight to herald the most important day in the history of nations, July 4th, 1776.
Yeah, no, I think the most important day of history probably would be maybe, I don't know, the arrival of Christopher Columbus to the New World, maybe the fall of Constantinople.
At those words, every American heart should swell with pride. Every American family should cheer with delight, and every American patriot should be filled with joy.
Nothing like feeling proud of and taking credit for other people's accomplishments.
Because each of you lives in the most magnificent country in the history of the world.
No. That would be the Mongolian Empire, the Roman Empire probably, or maybe even the British Empire, certainly not the United States.
And it will soon be greater than ever before. Our founders launched not only a revolution in government, but a revolution in the pursuit of justice, equality, liberty, and prosperity. No nation has done more to advance the human condition than the United States of America. And no people have done more to promote human progress than the citizens of our great nation.
Sorry, but in Europe, slavery had been banned for many years before Americans finally got the hint. So no, we haven't actually done anything particularly impressive on the human progress front.
It was all made possible by the courage of 56 patriots who gathered in Philadelphia 244 years ago and signed the Declaration of Independence. They enshrined a divine truth that changed the world forever when they said, all men are created equal.
No. It was not a divine truth. In fact, there's no such thing as the divine. It was not true because all men are not equal, especially all men are not created. In fact, we were evolved and not created, but back then they were creationists and they thought we were created by hand, by God, or something molded out of clay, which is, as we know now, absolutely bullshit. So we weren't created equal, and neither are we equal today. In fact, I find it kind of insulting that anybody would regard me as equal to you, because you are an idiot who has no idea what he's doing and who single-handedly caused the deaths of over 120,000 Americans. In no way are we equal. Most of us are better than you.
These immortal words set in motion the unstoppable march of freedom.
Unstoppable my ass. It took almost 100 years for us to get rid of slavery.
Our founders boldly declared that we are all endowed with the same divine rights given us by our Creator in heaven. And that which God has given us, we will allow no one ever to take away, ever.
Except we know now that we were evolved and that there is no creator, there is no heaven, and there is no God. Good riddance.
"1776 represented the culmination of thousands of years of Western civilization and the triumph of not only spirit, but of wisdom, philosophy, and reason. And yet, as we meet here tonight, there is a growing danger that threatens every blessing our ancestors fought so hard for, struggled, they bled to secure. Our nation is witnessing a merciless campaign to wipe out our history, defame our heroes, erase our values, and indoctrinate our children.
Yes, your support of federally funded private Christian schools located in the Deep South is a supreme threat to reason, history, and freedom from indoctrination, for sure.
Angry mobs are trying to tear down statues of our founders, deface our most sacred memorials, and unleash a wave of violent crime in our cities. Many of these people have no idea why they're doing this, but some know exactly what they are doing. They think the American people are weak and soft and submissive. But no, the American people are strong and proud, and they will not allow our country and all of its values, history, and culture to be taken from them.
No, there is in no way any founding sort of element for the Confederacy, at least for us, and by definition, they weren't American.
One of their political weapons is cancel culture, driving people from their jobs, shaming dissenters, and demanding total submission from anyone who disagrees. This is the very definition of totalitarianism, and it is completely alien to our culture and to our values, and it has absolutely no place in the United States of America.
Bullshit. We all know that you're no friend of free speech either. We all know that you've been calling out the fake news media for lying, even though, sure, they have some bias, but they're not lying blatantly like you are all the time. And you've made it pretty clear that you would, if you had the power, you would actually shut down those media sites. Now, you are also no great defender of free speech because you are quick to slap libel lawsuits on anybody who so much as says any bad word about you. And believe me, there are plenty of those people.
This attack on our liberty, our magnificent liberty, must be stopped, and it will be stopped very quickly. We will expose this dangerous movement, protect our nation's children, end this radical assault, and preserve our beloved American way of life. In our schools, our newsrooms, even our corporate boardrooms, there is a new far-left fascism that demands absolute allegiance. If you do not speak its language, perform its rituals, recite its mantras, and follow its commandments, then you will be censored, banished, blacklisted, persecuted, and punished.
Well, actually, the only one who follows mantras and commandments are the religious, those people who you have been supporting all this time. Now, far-left fascism is an oxymoron. Fascism, especially associated with the Nazis and Hitler, has always been right-wing. More importantly, it's always been authoritarian, which is very similar to you. You seem to have some big respect for Xi Jinping, Vladimir Putin, Kim Jong-un, Modi from India, and many other public figures who are very strong dictatorial styles. You seem to find great inspiration from those people, and we all know that you would be a dictator if you could. The second identifying characteristic of fascism is extreme nationalism, which is what Hitler meant by socialism. It actually meant nationalism and populism, as in social, as in appealing to the wide, large groups socially. That's what he meant when he said social, not as in Marxist socialism. Now, nationalism, actually, that sounds a lot like what you're doing right now, celebrating Independence Day, circle jerking about how you are so great for being in your own country. That extreme nationalism is actually very common with the alt-right, making you more similar to fascists than any left-winger, even far left-wingers, will ever be.
It's not going to happen to us. Make no mistake, this left-wing cultural revolution is designed to overthrow the American Revolution.
You can't overthrow a revolution. It revolved. It turned around. If you move it the other direction, it's just another revolution, just in the opposite direction.
In so doing, they would destroy the very civilization that rescued billions from poverty, disease, violence, and hunger, and that lifted humanity to new heights of achievement, discovery, and progress.
And also caused like a million pointless wars and destroyed huge amounts of lives in relation to imperialism and many other factors that Americans seem to just gloss over.
To make this possible, they are determined to tear down every statue, symbol, and memory of our national heritage. True. That's very true, actually. That is why I am deploying federal law enforcement to protect our monuments, arrest the rioters, and prosecute offenders to the fullest extent of the law. I am pleased to report that yesterday, federal agents arrested the suspected ringleader of the attack on the statue of the great Andrew Jackson in Washington, D.C. And in addition, hundreds more have been arrested. Under the executive order I signed last week pertaining to the Veterans Memorial Preservation and Recognition Act and other laws, people who damage or deface federal statues or monuments will get a minimum of 10 years in prison.
That's right, they're going to send you to prison, where only actually dangerous people are supposed to be, just for you being not nice to a hunk of stone.
And obviously that includes our beautiful Mount Rushmore. Our people have a great memory. They will never forget the destruction of statues and monuments to George Washington, Abraham Lincoln, Ulysses S. Grant, abolitionists, and many others.
Who the fuck is tearing down abolitionist statues?
The violent mayhem we have seen in the streets and cities that are run by liberal Democrats in every case is the predictable result of years of extreme indoctrination and bias in education, journalism, and other cultural institutions. Against every law of society and nature, our children are taught in school to hate their own country and to believe that the men and women who built it were not heroes but that were villains.
First of all, there is no such thing as a law of nature. Second of all, people are taught history, and they get to decide for themselves whether or not some people are heroes and villains. Thankfully, it's not that ambiguous as to whether Jefferson Davis was a hero or a villain, was it? Or if it is, then you shouldn't be President of the United States.
The radical view of American history is a web of lies. All perspective is removed, every virtue is obscured, every motive is twisted, every fact is distorted, and every flaw is magnified until the history is purged and the record is disfigured beyond all recognition.
You're right in that a lot of our public school textbooks are made in Texas, where for some reason people feel the need to make some revisionist history textbooks where they glorify unnecessarily American people and try to make it seem like a lot of American figures were better people than they really were.
This movement is openly attacking the legacies of every person on Mount Rushmore. They defile the memory of Washington, Jefferson, Lincoln, and Roosevelt. Today, we will set history and history's records straight.
That's right, only straight. No homos, no trannies, only straight.
He also drafted Virginia's Constitution and conceived and wrote the Virginia Statute for Religious Freedom, a model for our cherished First Amendment.
Yeah, that establishment clause you are repeatedly trying to tear down. You are trying to tear down that wall of separation between church and state so that church can slowly seep in and create a theocracy.
And he too will never, ever be abandoned by us.
Hate to tell you this, but we abandoned Thomas Jefferson long ago. If Jefferson were to come back to life today and see what we are like in American culture, he would be absolutely horrified at what we've done to the Constitution.
Abraham Lincoln, the savior of our Union.
Yeah, by declaring a war that, by the American Revolution's own standards, should have been not illegal at all.
The first Republican president, he rose
And look at the Republican Party now.
to high office from obscurity based on a force and clarity of his anti-slavery convictions. Very, very strong convictions.
No, he didn't actually rise to power based on that. In fact, he kind of downplayed it until, the South seceded. Then he turned it up to 11,
He signed the law that built the Transcontinental Railroad.
which basically enslaved a bunch of Chinese people and blew them up in tunnels.
He signed the Homestead Act, given to some incredible scholars as simply defined ordinary citizens free land to settle anywhere in the American West.
Meanwhile, Republicans today are hoarding their real estate.
And he led the country through the darkest hours of American history, giving every ounce of strength that he had to ensure the government of the people, by the people, and for the people did not perish from this earth.
America has never been governed by the people. In fact, it used to be even more undemocratic than it is today. Today, we have problems like local gerrymander and then the 50 states electoral college, which the 50 states are basically old school gerrymandering styles too. The state lines and borders are completely arbitrary and reflect nothing about the geography in most cases. And no longer is the American government for the people. It's now controlled by the rich for the rich. So you are a perfect example of that.
He served as Commander-in-Chief of the U.S. Armed Forces during our bloodiest war, the struggle that saved our Union and extinguished the evil of slavery.
And replaced it with segregation and Jim Crow laws. Whoop-de-doo.
He issued the Emancipation Proclamation.
Which was illegitimate and did absolutely nothing.
He led the passage of the 13th Amendment, abolishing slavery for all time.
Nah, we only abolished explicit slavery. We still have trafficking and we still have wage slaves in the United States.
Theodore Roosevelt.
Yeah, Theodore Roosevelt doesn't even belong here. He's just here because he was the prominent political figure at the time. Skip.
The American people will never relinquish the bold, beautiful, and untamed spirit of Theodore Roosevelt.
Imagine when we inevitably go vegan, how Theodore Roosevelt is going to look as a hunter.
The radical ideology attacking our country advances under the banner of social justice. But in truth, it would demolish both justice and society. It would transform justice into an instrument of division and vengeance.
Oh, like your so-called Justice Department, being your personal lawyer these days.
And it would turn our free and inclusive society into a place of repression, domination, and exclusion. They want to silence us, but we will not be silenced. We will state the truth in full, without apology. We declare that the United States of America is the most just and exceptional nation ever to exist on earth. We are proud of the fact that our country was founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and we understand that these values have dramatically advanced the cause of peace and justice throughout the world.
For the last time, the country has never been Judeo-Christian. Nothing ever specifically to do with Judaism or Christianity besides the rough concept of a creator or a god has ever been introduced in the United States Constitution. In the Treaty of Tripoli signed by John Adams, a founding father, he explicitly said, "The United States is in no sense founded on the Christian religion." And finally, the Bible explicitly condones slavery, is homophobic, and is misogynistic. Nowhere in the Bible does it say anything that could be remotely honestly construed to mean anything that has anything to do with any of the fair advances of humanity since the United States' conception.
We know that the American family is the bedrock of American life.
Ambiguously homophobic.
We recognize the solemn right and moral duty of every nation to secure its borders. And we are building the wall.
A large minority of illegal immigrants arrive by plane, and most illegal immigrants arrive legally and overstay their welcome. A wall wouldn't stop jack shit. A 10-foot wall would only create higher demand for a 15-foot ladder.
We remember that governments exist to protect the safety and happiness of their own people. A nation must care for its own citizens first.
But you're not doing that, are you? There's still rampant crime, rampant poverty. A lot of people are uninsured or underinsured. There's tons of people in prison. We're in a constant military arms race against nobody but ourselves. This is not what we call Americans first.
We must take care of America first. It's time. We believe in equal opportunity, equal justice, and equal treatment for citizens of every race, background, religion, and creed. Every child of every color, born and unborn, is made in the holy image of God.
Then there's no way that God is anywhere close to perfect. Because the human body is full of flaws. Why do we have a tailbone? Why do we have an appendix? In fact, why did God design us to have a foreskin and then order us to chop it off? It makes no sense if he designed us that way. If we were really designed by God, God is a terrible designer. And if we were really based on God, God is absolutely lame.
We will never abolish our police or our great Second Amendment, which gives us the right to keep and bear arms.
That's not what defund the police means. Defund the police means the police have budgets that are far too large and that they are far too militarized. And one reason why they are far too militarized is because the American populace has guns. When you have a gun, the cop has to have both a gun and a bulletproof vest. And it goes from there that there's an arm race between the populace and the cops. It makes no fucking sense to have that system. Those two systems run contrary to each other. And we all know that the government will always win that arm race, meaning this gun defense argument that it's a defense against tyranny, it's absolutely preposterous. So, we can only justify guns with self-defense, except guns aren't defensive weapons. In fact, they're terrible at blocking any attacks. They're actually offensive weapons, unlike swords. Swords would be a good self-defense weapon.
We believe that our children should be taught to love their country, honor their history, and respect our great American flag.
Weren't you just talking about indoctrination and freedom and liberty a moment ago? What happened to all of that? Instead, now we have to teach our children who have no idea what they're talking about that they must love America even when it's so shitty in so many ways, and we have to teach them, indoctrinate them into believing that the flag should be respected for no reason other than it's a piece of cloth with some stars and stripes on it. Freedom of speech, action, and expression isn't just for when it's convenient for you, you know?
We stand tall, we stand proud, and we only kneel to Almighty God.
God doesn't exist.
Their goal is not a better America. Their goal is to end America.
Yeah, these liberals who want government programs want to destroy the government that would be funding those programs. Makes sense, right?
In its place, they want power for themselves.
You know, leftism is about spreading power as thinly as possible, right? How could that possibly lead to power for oneself?
But just as patriots did in centuries past, the American people will stand in their way, and we will win, and win quickly and with great dignity.
So much winning. I think I'm getting tired of your winning.
They would tear down the principles that propelled the abolition of slavery.
You're saying that the people tearing down these statues, who are mostly black, want to eliminate abolition of slavery?
And ultimately around the world, ending an evil institution that had plagued humanity for thousands and thousands of years.
We got rid of slaves pretty late in the game, bub.
Our opponents would tear apart the very documents that Martin Luther King used to express his dream and the ideas that were the foundation of the righteous movement for civil rights.
I doubt a movement that's called Black Lives Matter would do that.
They would tear down the beliefs, culture, and identity that have made America the most vibrant and tolerant society in the history of the earth.
You're a homophobe, a racist, a transphobe, and many other things, you idiot.
My fellow Americans, it is time to speak up loudly and strongly and powerfully
And bigly.
defend the integrity of our country. Here tonight, before the eyes of our forefathers, Americans declare again, as we did 244 years ago, that we will not be tyrannized,
Easy coming from you.
we will not be demeaned, and we will not be intimidated by bad, evil people. It will not happen.
Remember, just don't be bad or evil. No bad or evil people, please.
Above all, our children from every community must be taught that to be American is to inherit the spirit of the most adventurous and confident people ever to walk the face of the earth.
Citation needed.
We are the people who dreamed a spectacular dream. It was called Las Vegas in the Nevada desert.
Building a successful casino is only a dream for you.
I am announcing the creation of a new monument to the giants of our past. I am signing an executive order to establish the National Guard of American Heroes, a vast outdoor park that will feature the statues of the greatest Americans to ever live.
Plot twist, there will only be one statue, and it will be of Donald Trump.
I love your state. I love this country.
No, you don't.
I'd like to wish everybody a very happy 4th of July. To all, God bless you. God bless your families. God bless our great military. And God bless America. Thank you very much.
Fuck you. I hope one of your supporters coughs on you and gives you coronavirus. I'll shit on your grave.
I'm and I approve this message.